Wildlife on One, in its 100 programs so far, has roamed the world, from deserts to the tropical rainforests, from the floor of a coral lagoon to the back streets of a British town. Here's a portrait of a place that has, what you might say, a horrid fascination. Pelham Aldrich Blake, the director, and Martin Colbeck, the cameraman, had to spend weeks up to their knees in bat droppings to bring you this picture of a place which is certainly one of the most extraordinary places I've ever visited. These are surely among the strangest birds in the world. They make their nests of spit and can fly in total darkness. But this is not the imperfect darkness of night, it's the deeper darkness of the underworld. For the birds are cave swiftlets, and they nest in the great limestone caverns of Southeast Asia. The swiftlets bridge two worlds, the black world of the caves and the green, sunlit upper world of the tropical forest. Here, that forest stands on limestone. Limestone that is often hollow with caves of gigantic proportions. Our story is set in one such group of caves, the Gomantong Caves in Sabah, in northern Borneo. This is Simut Hitam, the Black Cave. Water, seeping down from the forest above, seeks out plains of weakness in the limestone and dissolves it away. Over the millennia, tiny pipes and channels become subterranean rivers, huge tunnels that may later be left high and dry as the water finds an even deeper course. Into this dark sanctuary comes life, extraordinary in its variety. Some creatures, like bats, use the caves as temporary haven from the outside world, a safe place to roost during the day. Others spend their whole existence in total darkness. Men come to the caves too. There's a prize here of such value that they'll risk their lives in the vastness of the caverns to gather it. At Gomantong, 3 different kinds of swiftlet are found deep within the caves, often far beyond the reach of daylight. This is the mossy nest swiftlet. Its nest is made of moss and other vegetation cemented together with rubbery saliva. The nest is always built on a ledge, and it looks much like that of the swiftlet's relatives in the outside world. But by nesting in the caves, this bird gains shelter from the elements and avoids many of the hazards of the world outside. But how does it find its way in the dark? The blackness in these deep tunnels is absolute. Even the most sensitive of eyes are useless here. The answer is that the swiftlets have evolved echolocation, rather like bats. Those strange clicking and rattling calls are reflected back from the walls of the cave. By picking up the echoes, the birds can avoid obstacles as little as 5 millimeters across. These nests belong to a second kind of swiftlet, the black-nest swiftlet. They're made entirely of feathers and hardened saliva. There's no vegetable matter in them at all. And they are cemented to sheer or even overhanging rock faces high in the roof of the cave. These ones are 70 meters up. Incredibly, it's these nests that bring people to Simut Hitam. They're used to make bird's nest soup. This bird is still building its nest. You can see the strands of saliva coming out of its beak. It will add a layer of feathers from its own breast, if its mate will let it. Black-nest swiftlets always nest in colonies densely packed together. There may be as many as 100 nests to the square metre, and at Gamantong the total population numbers hundreds of thousands. This colony belongs to another kind of swiftlet, the white-nest swiftlet. It gives its name to the second of the two great caverns at Gamantong, Simut Puteh, the White Cave. Its nest is one of the most remarkable constructions in the animal kingdom. It's made entirely of hardened saliva. There are no feathers or strands of vegetable matter in it at all. It's painstakingly built up from layer upon layer of solidified spit. This intricate process has hardly ever been seen before, let alone filmed. Each nest may take as much as a month to build, even though both partners share the work. As with the black nests, they're built high in the roof of the cave, a roof that in Simut Puteh may be an incredible 150 meters up. That's more than 3 times the height of Nelson's column, and these pure white nests are the most highly prized by the nest collectors. In the hour before dawn, the swiftlets leave the cave and fly out over the forest. It takes more than an hour for all the swiftlets to leave, As gibbons greet the sunrise with their calls, the birds are still streaming in thousands from the mouth of the cave. The swiftlets fan out far and wide over the forest canopy. They'll spend the day hawking for insects above the trees, but on the way they must run the gauntlet of creatures such as this, a rufous-bellied eagle. It takes up station on a tree overlooking the mouth of the cave. Not every stoop is as successful as that, but there are so many swiftlets that an eagle can account for half a dozen in an hour. The shrilling of cicadas marks the end of the day. Swiftlets returning to the caves at dusk meet huge swirling flocks of bats spiraling out. These are free-tailed bats. There's an estimated 500,000 of them in this one roost at Gomantong. At least 8 kinds of bat are found in these caves. These are diademed horseshoe bats. Like most of the others, they're insect eaters. They roost here during the day and hunt over the forest at night. But these ones haven't gone out to feed with the rest. This is a maternity ward. All these bats are females with young. The babies are clinging to a false nipple low on the bodies of their upside-down mothers. To suckle from the true nipple, they just move down a bit. But when their mothers do go out to feed, they will be parked upside down on the cave wall. Beneath the bat roosts, great piles of guano accumulate. This huge dune is 100 meters from top to bottom, the droppings of 500,000 bats. It stinks of ammonia, and its surface shimmers and seethes with countless thousands of golden cockroaches. There's a whole community of creatures living in the guano, recycling the bat's waste products. The cave provides ideal conditions for them: high humidity, constant temperatures, abundant food. Many spend their whole lives here and never see the light of day. All are dependent on the bats and swiftlets for their nourishment. Were it not for that vital link with the outside world, the caverns would be almost sterile. Each kind of guano has its own fauna. This is swiftlet guano, subtly different in its texture and composition. And this is the guano-eating caterpillar of a tiny moth, a relative of our own clothes moth. It makes itself a protective casing from fragments of insect cuticle, rather as a caddisfly larva does with twigs and pebbles. The cave is a kaleidoscope of miniature worlds. Every nook and cranny has its own fauna, taking advantage of the special conditions. A black lagoon of liquefied bat droppings draws freshwater crabs, scavengers from the forest outside. Any swiftlet that falls from the nests above is soon dismembered. The crabs are scavengers of the wetter parts of the cave. In the darkness of dry tunnels, their place is taken by something else. Cave crickets. These are the vultures of the caverns, with long antennae continually awave to detect the slightest air movement. They sniff out carrion, a dead bat. No dead or dying bat that falls to ground lasts for long. After the crickets come other scavengers. Nothing is wasted. But this is just a part of the chain. Not all waving antennae lead to comparatively harmless crickets. A giant, poisonous centipede. It's as long as a man's hand. Despite that tangle of legs, It's a fast runner, but most of the time it waits motionless until a cricket comes within reach of those venomous jaws. There are other hunters too in this underworld. A cave racer snake. These pallid serpents spend their whole lives in the cave. They can grow to 2 meters or more. Bats make up much of the cave racer's food. Many they collect by patrolling the floor of the cavern beneath the roosts, picking off sick or injured ones like this that have fallen to the ground. The ground beneath the roosting bats yields most of the cave racer's victims, but by no means all. Some they catch by lying in wait in narrow passages or at the entrances to the cave, with their mouths open. So numerous are the bats and swiftlets that sooner or later one flies within reach of the open jaws. And if that fails, they can climb the walls of the cave, taking advantage of any roughness or irregularity in the rocks to attain the high galleries where the bats and swiftlets roost. That's why swiftlets build their nests in such inaccessible places, even on the overhanging vaults of the very roof of the cavern. White-nest swiftlets like this lay 2 eggs. Black-nest swiftlets only 1. Both parents share the incubation. After 24 days, the young hatch. The parents share the task of feeding them, flying hundreds of meters down dark tunnels to the outside world to bring insects from the forest. It will take 45 days for these young to fledge, and at least 60 for the single chick of the black-nest swiftlet, far longer than for comparable birds in temperate climes. So breeding swiftlets are very vulnerable to disturbance. The most likely cause of such disturbance is man. At the start of each breeding season, men come to Gomantong. From strong timbers wedged in the roof of the cave, they hang long ladders made from rattan, a climbing palm that grows in the forest outside. Then they haul up walkways of rattan and bamboo. When these are lashed in place, they will stretch from the ladders to the walls of the cave. It takes a team of some 6 men to get just one of their number up into the vault of the cavern. Only when the caves are peopled can their incredible scale be appreciated. The purpose of this elaborate venture is to collect the swiftlets' nests. There's been a trade in birds' nests from Borneo for centuries. It was already old when the first European traders came here early in the 1600s. The collecting is a highly skilled craft and a dangerous one. Here in Gamantong, 3 people have been killed in the last 20 years. In every cave where swiftlets breed, the collecting rights belong to somebody. Here at Gamantong, it's the government, but most caves are still privately owned. Rights can be bought and sold or handed down from father to son. So valuable is the harvest that as the time for collection approaches, guards are posted to all entrances to the cave to prevent theft. Some even sleep in the caves. Despite the risks, the rewards for nest collecting are considerable. The end product, a bowl of bird's nest soup, can cost £10 or more. Ironically, it has no nutritive value, and it tastes only of whatever other flavouring is added to the basic ingredient. Here in Simut Hitam, the main harvest is black nests. They need a lot of processing to make them edible, so they're less valuable than the purer white nests from Simut Pute. Those can be worth as much as £3 a nest, and it takes 2 nests to make a single bowl of soup. Nests are collected early in the breeding season, before most of the birds have laid. Most pairs rebuild, and there's another collection after the young have fledged. In some cases, nests are over-collected and yields are declining. But with proper management, this extraordinary harvest need not reduce the number of birds. Birds that are perhaps the most remarkable inhabitants of the black caverns of Borneo.
Next on BBC One, EastEnders, followed by classic comedy with The Good Life.